welcome to the Wall of Sound. I'm Kate Ristaw, and once again we are streaming StoryLoom as we finish out this third chapter. If you're starting in new, you don't need to worry. You don't have to come in knowing anything in particular. I'll walk you through it, and we'll work our way through the rest of the story. The last couple of times what we've been doing is we've been working our way through setting up a StoryLoom chapter and then editing, editing it out. And what we'll do today is we're going to do a little bit of revising and get it to the point where we're pretty comfortable with it. And then I'll do one final cleanup and then I'll push submit. So let's walk you through that and start seeing what we got. So give me a second and I'll bring it up over here. All right. So what you're looking at here is the main board for my stories on StoryLoom. We have Sidekick Bakery, which is actually a completed story already. You can read it over on StoryLoom. And then we have Flower Shoppe for Heroes, which is the one that we've been working on. These two stories are standalones, but they do have some crossover stuff that's fun if you've read both of them. So one of the things I do is I go in and I click Edit Story, and you can see the 3 chapters that we got here. These first 2 chapters are already out, and this third one is the one that we are working on. So we're going to go ahead and click View and Edit, and we can see that story that we had going on. One of the things that we discovered in our last session was we had a lot of back and forth between 2 characters. Very specifically, let me pull them over here. There we go. So we had some back and forth between the sexist wizard and Stariel. And the sexist wizard and Stariel were in different locations. So you can see here we have the background of the dungeon cell, and that's where the sexist wizard is. Remember, we're coding when we're making StoryLoom, so anything that we want in a scene, it has to be coded into that scene. So in this case, we have this background of the dungeon cell, and we have the sexist wizard saying, I have no idea for this part. So one of the things, though, that we discovered was when we go back and forth between those two, if we're using a slower transition, like a dissolve fast instead of a cut, it basically goes way too slow. Like we can't keep up with the speed of the back and forth clicking. So I went through and changed a couple of those, but you're going to see I made some mistakes. And so we'll be able to go through and fix those as we follow along. So what we're going to do right here is one of the final revisions that I usually do is I go through and I check on expressions and make sure that the expressions match up with what the characters might actually be looking like. And then I also will go through and fix some things that are like incorrect or need to be copy edited. So one of the easiest ways to do this in particular is to actually preview. So in this case, we are going to preview. And I'm going to show you why. So let's click preview. And you can set your story variables when you preview. So that means in this case, we have a couple of variables, and one of them is hair. So we can choose if they have melted hair or troll snotty hair. So we're going to hold on to that, and we're not going to set those variables at the moment. We'll choose them as we go. All right, so let me see what I got. And all right, let's click that preview button and load up that preview. All right, here we go. Now it's pretty classic with StoryLoom. Sometimes it gets stuck at the 90% preview, so just something to be aware of. If you see that 90% come up, don't freak out. It's not really that big of a deal, but it does happen occasionally. All right. And we got a Bob Ristaw over in chat. Hey Bob, how are you? So here we go. We got our preview going, and it starts with, you might be wondering how I got here. So this is Stariel. Stariel is our main character. He is our hero of our story, remember? And the thing about Stariel is that Stariel, Bob was kind of saying that Stariel's like Joey from Friends, right? Like he's kind of the guy who's just kind of going along. He's got 5 or 6 thoughts in his head, and like all 6 of them or 5 are about heroing. So he wants to be the hero. And I'm going to bring up my chat on my other screen here so I can see that a little better. All right. So he says, you might be wondering how I got here. We ended that chapter 2 with him diving into a demon sword swarm with his sword raised. So he was ready to attack, right? We started this chapter with, you might be wondering how I got here. So you automatically know that we're immediately slowing things down. So our background there is the dungeon. That looks great, right? We also have Stariel saying, you might be wondering how I got here. So let's go through, and one other thing that we haven't talked about yet is the music. So let's just put some basic music over here. We can add a music block, and we can select this music. You can see already we have Creepy Whispers, Resolved Piano, Unpleasant Company, and Fantasy Ambiance. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and click this Creepy Whispers because we are in the creepy dungeon, and that'll just play gently in the background. I try to do something that's not incredibly distracting, but at the same time, if you have some funny moments that you want to highlight with music, music is a good way to do that. So we got the dungeon. You might be wondering how I got here. So let's click it through and look for things we need to fix. Actually, so that's our devil, the devilest devil, the devilest devil of all time. Remember, we made that change that we were calling him the devilest devil of all time. I was deep in the forest. Weren't we going to? I was fighting for my life against a dirty, rotten troll when he tricked me. So something I saw there is the devilest devil is coming up as the devilest devi. So we might decide to get rid of the and just write devilest devil instead. So the full name goes up on the preview. So we'll write that down and we'll fix that in a second. I was fighting for my life against a dirty, rotten troll when he tricked me. You notice I made that change. I had written ogre, and it was actually a troll. I went back and checked for y'all. So we were just in the middle of a vicious... See, that devilest devil, we'll change it to devilest devil. Just give me a second here. I was trying to explain that malicious monster had me hanging over a cauldron of troll snot. So that kind of reads a little bit strange. So let's say, just give me a second here. I was trying to explain that... The malicious monster had me hanging over a cauldron of troll snot, just so it doesn't feel like we're repeating ourselves. And notice we got Stariel sad there, right? And then in this case here, we have the devilest devil surprised. This particular character is not showing any expressions besides this one, so that's just something to be aware of. I tried a couple of different expressions on him. This is what we get. He's generally vaguely amused or bemused or unamused, possibly sad. So he says, ew. I couldn't believe it. Me, the hero. Him, the ogre. Wait, was he an ogre? No, he was a troll. So we should fix that. These are the kind of continuity errors that we're fixing. So continuity is just, are you keeping things the same throughout the story consistently? So that was not. Him, the troll. The cauldron of troll snot. That makes more sense. Yuck. I know, right? Unbelievable. See how sticky my hair is? He's still sad. Oh, now that dude's super happy. We did get happy. Look at that. Look at how excited he is now. So gross, yet luxurious. So at this point, we're starting to see the devilest devil kind of being charmed by Stariel a little bit, right? So I think switching to that happy expression on him is a good one at that point. So gross, yet luxurious. Or maybe we shouldn't go full happy. Let's hold that. Let's hold our default expression on that, and we can move to full happy on the next line when he's like really going into happy mode. So gross, yet luxurious. I know. So anyways, I completely totally rescued myself without the help of any elves named Vanir or Keebler or Lori or whatever. Thanks to Bob for Lori. How heroic. So we got happy going in there after this. I know, turns out it was the evilest wizard of all time. He was behind the whole thing. Another troll spot not experience, TM. I went back and double checked that that's how we wrote it in the previous story too. He makes me want to spend the day pulling weeds and not thinking about complex life decisions. It's actually quite frustrating. I chased him into this very dark and very creepy dungeon. All right, so something to think about there. you do want to think a little bit about how your blocks of text break up, and that's a really weird break. So I might look back and pull a separate sentence onto its own. The other thing is, if you look, you can't look back on the preview, but if you look over here on the left side, we got, I know, it turns out it was the evilest wizard of all time. He was behind the whole thing. Another troll snot experience. So I'm just going to do this and cheat and just say he was behind the whole dink troll snot experience. He makes me want to spend the day pulling weeds and not thinking about complex life decisions. So I added in that complex life decisions thing and pulling weeds because one of the things that we've talked about is we have the title of the story is Flower Shop for Heroes. So we know that Stariel is going to be possibly maybe owning a flower shop or at least be vaguely interested in flower shops. So we're going to add in some of those more references as we go along. So in this case, he's like, he makes me want to spend the day pulling weeds and not thinking about complex life decisions. I can totally relate to that. All right. Yes, and when we first met, you were yelling about peonies? I was. They have such a lovely fragrance. You see, when I was we talked about, we added this in here to bring us back on track. We were kind of getting a little bit sidetracked, which was kind of the point of bringing that pacing down a little bit and moving us along further in the story so we can develop his character without having those epic fantasy battle moments. But now, oh no, the princess! We've raised up our stakes again. You shiver at the sound of the princess's screams and tighten your hand around your sword. You can do this. You know you can. You're the hero. And what do heroes do? You all know the answer to this. Hero! Okay. So remember, the devil is devil only heard him say hero. You raise your sword and, as if for the first time, notice the devilest devil of all time standing in your way. Out of my way, foul demon! You cannot stop me from saving the princess. Notice we've got that super serious look now. And let's click it over, and the devilest devil says, actually, I can. And this might be a good spot for that devilest devil to be angry. All right. So that devilest devil is angry now. You can't see it on the preview, but if we loaded it again, we'd be able to see that. If he has an angry expression. This might be his angry expression also, just so we know. He raises his hands, and they burst into flame. The fires scream with the soul-crushing weight of the dead. The devilest devil of all time launches fireballs of endless pain and suffering directly at your face. Ding! What do? A fireball is flying directly into your soul. Do you... My only thought there is, like we just said directly a whole bunch of times, and we're going to use fireball a couple of times too. So I'm going to get rid of directly and figure that one out. So what do? A fireball is flying straight for your soul. Is flying, maybe, and instead of that, let's go back up to this one. The devil's devil of all time launches fireballs of endless pain and suffering right at your face. And then when our next one, it doesn't seem repetitive then when we have the what do? A fireball is flying directly into your soul. Do we want to duck or super duck today? What do we got? Somebody tell me and we'll test it out. All right, looks like we're super ducking because we super like ducks. We're super ducking. And you super duck. Flames fly over your head and the skulls behind you burst into fire. Uh-oh. Let's do a copy edit there. So let's go to our super duck part, and then later we need to review our duck part just to make sure. So if you look over here on the left, we have our choices. And the first choice is that duck. So now I'm just going to go like this. And if I wanted to see the full duck, I could go down through that. But instead, I wanted to check super duck. So you super duck, flames fly over your head, and the skulls behind you burst into fire. That's that stuff that we miss sometimes. You'd be super creeped out if you weren't screaming, battle crying. You're definitely using your super heroic battle cry. Hey, stop that. I'm trying to murder you here. All right. So we've kind of switched we've gone from going into full attack mode to like, oh no, murder me, why? I'm just trying to save the princess. Stariel is not really understanding what's going on because he's like, hello, I'm just trying to save the princess. I'm doing my job. And the devilest devil says, and I'm trying to save her retirement. He throws another fireball at your face. So you swing your sword, and the fireball glances off the devilest devil of all time's face. So that still reads a little strange. We read it before. You swing your sword, and the fireball glances off the devilest devil of all time's face. Let's say smashes into is a little bit more active than glances off of. So, and the fireball smashes into the devilest devil of all time's face. All right, and we got ouch, like super ouch. Like, what the heck, man? That's like hot. Sorry, I didn't mean to melt your face. All right, so we should have that. If that devil's devil has a surprised expression, that would be a good spot for a surprised expression. He might not, but Stariel definitely has his surprised expression. So you might have. Let me adjust this a little bit on my screen so you can see it a little better because it went big when I started making my edits. So there's a lot of, on the StoryLoom side, sometimes we get adjustments on the screen as you make tiny changes and stuff too. So, all right. Let me open it a little bit wider so you can see everything that's going on Stariel's face. You don't want to miss Stariel's face, man. His reactions there are pretty priceless. All right, so get a little bit more Stariel. This is the song for Stariel. He's slowly moving over to see you. Not too much. Don't super duck. Kate's moving herself out of the way. Ding, ding, ding. Sound effects included. Kate getting shrunk. Just wait for it. It is worth the effort and the time. Or maybe it's not. We'll find out shortly. All right, I just moved this over so you can see a little bit more of Stariel as we go through this preview. And let's transition over so you can see him a little better there. Now you got his wild faces. All right, so heading back in. So we had, sorry, I didn't mean to melt your face. We fixed that surprised expression for the devilest devil too. And now he's all chill again. He's like, I'm just kidding, man. I'm good. I'm fireproof, unlike my 401k. And that's a slow load there. Not really anything we can do. Occasionally you'll have a little bit of a slow load in preview as you move from a choice and out of a choice. So we went through that. That was the super duck choice. So let's just check our duck choice real quick. Duck and super duck, duck and super duck. All right, so that was super duck. Let's check out duck. Duck. Here you go. So we can't preview it unless we want to go through again, and I'm going to save that up there. So for over here on the left, we got you duck. It doesn't really work. Lots of fire, flamey faced, super bad decision, a lot of screaming. Oh geez, I'm so sorry. I thought you were going to super duck. Why didn't you super duck? Oh man, is your hair melting? And so that one would be another one where we have him surprised if the devilest devil can be. So troll snot drips down your face, extinguishing the flames of endless agony, you whimper. Turns out troll snot is both a fire extinguisher and a fast-acting healing salve. Your skin sizzles with pleasure. Thank the gods for troll snot. So we just took a second and yesterday I played out the troll snot and what exactly it does and explained that just a little bit more. But as we say, Stariel says thank the gods for troll snot, and the devilest devil says ew, because he's grossed out again. So you reach up to push the hair back from your face, but hesitate, fully aware of the adhesive powers of the green goobers. And something I did over here, and you can see this, is we have a switch over to the background of the castle ruins, and the evilest wizard says, "Sail the emerald seas with me." That's a booger joke. You're welcome. And then we head back to the dungeon, and Stariel says, first of all, gross. Have I said that yet? Okay, so one of the things that I'm doing here is if you want to, one of the things that you can do in StoryLoom in particular that I've been doing is bringing back other references or other scenarios or other people kind of participating in the conversation, but they're not really there. So in this case, I added in the evilest wizard of all time when we were referencing him. I just put him in there and had him say, "Sail the Emerald Seas with me," just as a little interruption and something that spices this up just a smidgen. So Stariel says, "First of all, gross. Have I said that yet? Second of all, the evilest wizard of all time is always trying to exploit workers with his capitalist schemes, touting the troll snot experience while also taking advantage of the proletariat. It's absolutely disgusting." Now, a joke I have going throughout this whole series is that pretty much anyone can talk about socialist ideals in a very educated manner. So just be aware that that's coming your way. You can tell even when Stariel is like talking about the proletariat and capitalist schemes, he's got the language down pat. And the devil's devil replies with, "I know, it's hard enough just saving for retirement. Now we have to deal with his pyramid schemes." And then we have that switch back to the castle ruins again, and we say, and the evilest wizard says, "They're prisms, not pyramids. They have magical money-making properties." So that's some fun ways of switching back and forth and giving us a little bit more of an interesting storyline. So we're starting to build out that the evilest wizard is all about making money. So we, in that last part, we're in the castle ruins. When we get out of there, we want to make sure we're back in the dungeon. And that's the same with Super Duck. When we get out of that Super Duck part, we want to make sure that we're back in the dungeon. We also added that variable of hair. And so in this case, they had troll snotty hair. Or in this case, they had melty hair. That doesn't it's just a fun little thing that we can add in later. So in this scenario, Stariel's hair is going to be like melted down a little bit. And in this one, he's still got some height and some cool styling going on. I should call that one cool styling instead of troll snotty. So he says, "Do you work for the evilest wizard of all time?" "Yes, I never should have traded my soul to that wizard. I'm underpaid and overworked. It's not a very good work-death balance. Hashtag eternal strife." I'm writing myself one more quick note here because if the devil is devil of all time has too many words right there, we got to check what the evilest wizard looks like too in his naming to make sure that we got that one right. One of the things that I ended up doing is even if it says the devilest devil here, we still call him the full name of the devilest devil of all time or the evilest wizard of all time. All right. You look around the dungeon, your eyes following down the line of cells. It's dark, it's damp, it's disgusting. "Why are you still working here? I really think that as the devil, you should be paid a livable wage. Get your due." So in this part, we can have him be a little bit sad that the devil is working there. That's right, the devil should get his due. And so, can I go rescue the princess now? Or is it still face melty time? I'm going to add a dash in there for face melty time because that seems like an enjoyable time. Not. Go rescue the princess. I'm going to go talk to my onion rep. That's a joke that's funny to me. We'll see if it lasts. You have no idea what the devilest devil of all time means, but you take the opportunity to dash around him, looking in each of the cells as you run by. So the reason onion rep was funny to me was because it's totally wrong, but sometimes people make mistakes and other people don't realize why they're making them. So he probably thinks it's onion instead of union. So you peer through the first cell door and stumble back. "Let me out of here!" There he is, y'all, the sexist wizard. All right, so with the sexist wizard here, he says, "Let me out of here." And you notice we had that background change. And he says, "I will rescue you." Oh, wait a minute. You look really familiar. Have we met before? I don't do this too much, but in this case, I'm going to add one more dialogue box here. It's moving a little bit slow. There we go. And it's going to be Stariel. And he's going to do the I will rescue you. And then in the next one, so it just gives us a beat to think about it. He goes, oh, wait a minute. You look really familiar. Have we met before? You're not my type. Gross. Oh, you're the sexistest wizard of all time. Bob Bristol said that's not a funny joke, but I'm keeping it, Bob Bristol. Sexist, because you don't ever actually have to say it out loud. So the sexistest wizard of all time. Happy to make your acquaintance. All right, I'm going to do a double check here. And I'm going to change Stariel's reaction there where he says, oh, you're the sexistest wizard of all time. I'm going to make him a little sad about that. Happy to make your acquaintance. And then he says, why are you locked up? Oh, and we see what went wrong there. So Stariel was in the dungeon, and then we had the sexist wizard should have also been in the dungeon cell. So I'm going to switch that one over. And you notice we have the cuts now. So cut, 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 cut to make the scene switching go faster. So happy to make your acquaintance, and then he should be in the dungeon. So I'll switch these really quick so you don't have to watch those go wrong. And then dungeon cell, and then dungeon. Okay, I think we're good again. So why are you locked up? I have no idea. Growl. Wait a second. Did you just growl? I'm making this face because I'm trying to decide if we want to give him a full-on surprise face, but let's give him a full-on surprise face. The surprise faces are sometimes a little over the top, so I don't use them. I use them pretty sparingly. But wait a second, did you just growl? That's my stomach. You can hear it so well because I'm not wearing a shirt. My abs are awesome. His abs are pretty awesome. They really are. But you just grow more chest hair? So now I think we can give him surprised again since we're going with surprised. And let's change this other one here so you can see what his surprise looks like and you can decide too. So that's my chest. You can see it so well because I'm not wearing a shirt. My pecs are awesome. It's a lot of hair. They really are. But did you just become a werewolf? And back to that dungeon cell. Yes, I will eat your juicy parts. And we had the full werewolf here. I think we should probably change that one to, I think we had a sexist werewolf. So I'm going to change that one to, even though the full werewolf is really funny, the sexist werewolf actually appears in another story in Sidekick Bakery. So full werewolf is funny though. I will eat your juicy parts. I don't know how to take that. I'm out of here. So our last Stariel expression was surprised. I think we're good with a, I don't think we want a surprised on this one. I think a default, just that look. I don't know how to take that. I'm out of here. Then with a woof. And we're back to the dungeon. You saw how that was slightly slower on that cut over. I'm going to make it a full cut so it goes faster. But for the most part, usually between regular scenes, I would do a dissolve fast. But if you're going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, it's usually better to cut. So you run down to the next cell. Cam would be pretty happy that you didn't free the sexistest wizard of all time. So Cam, remember, is our baker from Sidekick Bakery. So let's add something about like some reference that we can get Cam in here for a second. So you run down to the next cell. Cam would be pretty happy that you didn't free the sexistest wizard of all time. And so what we can do is we can add a 4-second dialogue from Cam in here. And I'm going to change the background too in just a second. But do we have Cam in here? No, we don't. So now y'all get to add a character real quick. So our new character is Cam. And we have Cam in our other story, but we don't have her in this one. So we can select from the collection, scroll down, and I think she was labeled possibly a peasant, but I do not know. So we'll get to look through these again a little bit. She was one of the fantasy pack, one of the characters that came in the fantasy pack. So scream if you see her or shout if you don't. Just basically yell. It's good for your health. And we're almost there. There's the Elven Ranger. And there's Medusa. There's Storiel. And this is Cam, our kind peasant. Doesn't she look like a kind peasant? So we got Cam in there again. And let's put a background here. And a Cam background, we can just give her a village background like she's hanging out in the village. So it'll just give it a little bit of a difference from the background of the dungeon. So you run down to the next cell. Cam would be pretty happy that you didn't free the sexistest wizard of all time. And then we can just say something like, he said he liked my cookies. I wasn't baking. And then add in this background here. And we'll put you back in the dungeon. So he said he liked my cookies. I wasn't even baking, maybe. And that gives us our reference to Cam as a baker. It does a little cross story stuff for people who are reading both stories. And she might be a little like not sad or maybe angry. Well, let's make her angry. And we can double check that at the very end too. So she's angry. She says, he said he liked my cookies. I wasn't even baking. And then Stariel says, that guy is the worst. And there's Stariel saying that guy is the worst. I think we're still default on that one. He's not that angry or anything. So the next few cells are empty, except for some glittering ooze in the third cell, which shifts into the face of 1,000 dying suns, and you quickly look away. All right, so plot spoiler for y'all. This is something that we are throwing in that seems like a throwaway line and that we're going to run quickly by, but is later going to super matter. So let's read it and make sure that what we actually have here is something that's going to work. So I talked to you before about how I add in breadcrumbs for myself, little things that I can follow that lead to like a larger plot line, right? So one of the larger plot lines that I'm throwing out here is an idea that this glittering ooze that they were making is going to slowly get out of control. So the next few cells are empty except for some glittering ooze in the third cell, which shifts into the face of 1,000 dying suns, and you quickly look away. So let me pull this up over here. All right. So I think we're good to stick with that. The only thing I might consider is maybe saying glittering rainbow ooze, because I just want it to slightly stick in your mind as something that's like really strange, but not something that is necessarily drawing our attention too much. It's just something that we're dropping in. So you all know, as early readers, that this is something that's going to come back for us. So except for some glittering rainbow ooze in the third cell, which shifts into the face of 1,000 dying suns, and you quickly look away. Help me! She's gone to the help me's. I'm coming! You dash down to the fifth cell where you come face to face with... Hi, I'm Josh. That's Josh. Hi, Josh. I'm looking for the princess. Have you seen her? No, but can I interest you in some free-range troll snot? So a couple of things I want you to see here is we have that quick back and forth with Josh. Josh was a character I just made up last night as I was revising and needing something a little bit, had a little bit, just something a little bit funny and interesting. This guy, I gotta tell you, is not gonna super matter for the plot line. He's more there to build out the universe a little bit. So I'm gonna add some free-range troll snot, TM, trademarked. You reach your hand up and touch your troll snotty hair. It is scaling toward the sky like roses climbing up a castle wall. Hey y'all, you know what that is? That's a reference to a ding 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 check switch. So here we added a check switch so that we could refer back to a choice that had been made before. So in this case, remember we had the melted hair or the troll snotty hair. So if you had the melted hair, it would say, you reach your hand up and touch your melted hair. It is stuck to the side of your head like slugs Anahasta. That I threw on last night as a reference to another reference to flowers, right? Slugs on a hosta is kind of gross, but it gets across that little reference to flowers that we want to throw in. In this case, we got the you reach your hand up and touch your troll snotty hair. It is scaling toward the sky like roses climbing up a castle wall. So we have our reference to flowers, and we also have a little bit more world building with the castle walls. No, I'm good. I've had enough troll snot to last a lifetime. You look over at Josh, who is adjusting his tie. So this is really anachronistic, and I know we talked about this, that one of the funny things about writing this kind of story is when things are out of place, and Josh is definitely out of place. You want out of here? So remember, Stariel's still our hero, and he still wants to rescue people who want to be rescued, right? Or who need to be rescued. Josh looks at you with utter disbelief. Are you kidding me? You know how long it took me to make this appointment? No way, bro. I'm in it to win it. You gotta have the right grind set. I have an opportunity to move like 5 or 6 barrels of troll snot. That'll blow straight through my quota in one deal. The evilest wizard of all time set me up here while he's checking into some liquid assets. Something about alchemy. We are going to make bank. So, once again, we have a little bit more of the world building, but we also want to make sure that we didn't cut that. Those lines are cut really weird, and it is kind of distracting to click through. And so when we look at, I have an opportunity to move like 5 or 6 barrels of troll snot. That'll blow straight through my quota in one deal. So let's end there, and we'll add in. That's apparently a Josh happy face, by the way. Josh isn't big on huge facial expressions. All right. And by the way, liquid assets, also another awesome booger joke. You come here for the good stuff. So that does not sound very heroic, but you know what does sound heroic? He looks at you with utter confusion, matching his utter disbelief from 5 seconds ago. It might actually be his only expression. Rescuing the princess. All right, we're back on track. We had our little side quest. We talked to Josh. We talked to the sexist wizard. We built out our world a little bit, and we threw in some rainbow ooze that you're going to need later. You nod your head to Josh, and he nods back because you nod in business. That's a business thing. I know business. And then you're off. You race down the hallway again. You're almost to the end. The dungeon opens up into a passageway. Torches line the walls, dripping oil. You follow the sizzling flames through the corridor and under the archway and in the dying light. And in the dying light, you finally see her. So that last sentence is a little long and windy, so let's go fix that. You might remember, though, that we had some back and forth on if we were going to use a transition image there or not, and we decided not to. So, and then you're off. You race down the hallway again. You're almost to the end. The dungeon opens up into a passageway. Torches line the walls, dripping oil. You follow the sizzling flames through the corridor. Period. Under the archway and in the dying light, you finally see her. The princess. Staria, my love. Now, if y'all haven't figured it out, we are definitely making the princess into a princess caricature. So if you didn't realize, you're realizing now. Because you see the shine of her golden tresses, the green or possibly blue of her wide maiden eyes, the delicate turn of her wrists. She looks at you with wild hope and love and possibly hunger. No, that's not right. Just love. Yep, she is totally digging on you. She is also about to die. The princess. No! All right, so that was our ending. We talked about how that's definitely a cliffhanger ending. The only other change I would make there that I was seeing was that expression should be, it's kind of like sad surprised, so surprised is probably the best one. The other thing I wanted to do in this case was go back to some of those characters and make some of those other fixes. So if we go back to our main story page, right? We click on Story Assets. And give me a second, I'll shift over so you can see here. And all right, so I'm going to click through some story assets, move myself out of the way, and So currently in use, we have these characters. I talked about wanting to change some of their names. So in this one, I'm going to write sexist werewolf. All right, and then we have sexist wizard there. We have Josh. We have the dungeon cell. We ended up not using this one yet, but we will. I'm going to call it the crypt for our, oh no, we already have a crypt. So this is the, there was another word for it, catacombs. So this is the catacombs. And we have the Devilous Devil, which we wanted to change to Devilous Devil. Whoops. There we go. And there we go. And then we click over here just to make sure that that actually does that there. All right, so we got Devilous Devil, we got Catacomb, Sexist Werewolf, Cam. We have Josh, Sexist Wizard, Mom, Her Royal Highness. I might in the future go back and change this and just make it Mummy because it was a joke about Her Royal Highness or Mummy. But for right now, it's going to stay Her Royal Highness. And we have the very spooky ghost, which we can't change because he's already published too. See, I won't let you change that once you've already published it. You can always go back and edit it with your editor. And we already have the Evil Wizard also published, so we can't change him. So he's staying there, and I think we are good. Those were the ones that we could change. Now, the problem I'm running into, I know I'm going to have, is that like I'll have to think, now that I've added that rainbow ooze, I'll have to think about how I want to represent that too. But basically, this is our third chapter. The only other thing that you haven't really heard yet is the creepy whispers. So if for the most part we have creepy whispers throughout this, that kind of just makes sense. It's an easy little background thing. Sometimes when I go to something different, I'll add it in there if it's a long enough one. So let's do that for just a couple of these ones with this dude, the evilest wizard of all time. I like this unpleasant company. I'm going to come over here and, well, I'll tell you what, you all can listen to that one later because I'm not sharing my sound on this, but you can listen to it later and see what you think because it's very funny. It's like a dun, 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 dun. That's what it sounds like. Where'd it go? Do you see it? I don't know where it went. So we have creepy whispers. The only thing is we want to cut off that music. So let's find that. So we have unpleasant company. And then right after unpleasant company, we can go back, drag another music over. And the only thing to know is I'm going to make this another fast cut because that is a very quick cut through. It just goes from a little cut in and cut out. So that music cuts in fast, the castle ruins cut in fast, and then the dungeon can cut back in also. And then our other music was our creepy whispers, and I'm putting those back in and I'm cutting them back in. So I think we have him reappearing here, so we can do that one more time. My friend Robert is not a big fan of the constant music switchy. I try to not do it too much, but we can change that to cut again. But it's still kind of fun for people who are enjoying like the music changes. Some people don't even turn it on, which is also fine. Like if you don't dig it, just don't turn it on. This one, I'm going to save the music. I'll actually show you for this next part. So let's see. Put the music down where they both start just to make sure we have the right music going for both of them. And that was our creepy whispers. Creepy whispers. And in this case, I'm okay with the dissolve slow, I think. I'm just looking to see if I actually need a dissolve slow, because this one needs a dissolve back. Sometimes if you add a dissolve slow after a choice, it can just make it a little bit slow to switch over, which we saw. So in this case, we have the duck. We are in the dungeon here, right? We're in duck. We're still in dungeon. we go to the castle ruins. We're back to the dungeon. And we're in the castle ruins. So let's do this. Let's add this in here as a cut back to the dungeon. And we'll go over here. This one's already in the dungeon, already in the dungeon, already in the dungeon. So this one will just stay in the dungeon. So we don't actually need to cut back to the dungeon because we already have it. So then that won't do that weird slow thing that it was doing. All right, so that's how you kind of fix some of those weird transitions. If you have a scene, if you have a background in a cut, and then you, or sorry, in a choice, and then you also have it below that choice, it's going to switch from that background to the other background. And if it's the same background, you don't need to do that. So that was kind of what I was showing you there. We do need our creepy whispers though. So we got all of our creepy whispers lined up. We finished that unpleasant company there, and we need to go back and get some creepy whispers here. So let's add those in to make sure that all of our whispers are significantly creepy whispers. Creepy whispers. Creepy whispers. Creepy. Now we got our creepy whispers. All right. So those are our creepy whispers. Creepy things are creepy. Everything's creepy. We're looking to the dungeon cell. Things are still creepy. I think we're mostly fine. There's not really anything I would change here. I would just keep that creepy whispers going. And we don't really need to do much else. We could put a unpleasant company with that sexist werewolf, I will eat your juicy parts. I'm gonna go for it. The only thing that's interesting about when you use this is this is a short little back and forth, right? So we won't get that music very fast. So that's why I keep doing a lot of these cuts, because there are so many back and forth again. Like in this part, we'll go from, yes, I will eat your juicy parts, juicy parts, to creepy whispers again. Creepy whispers, remember. And then we can come back again and have that unpleasant company one more time. So the thing with unpleasant company music is it's just kind of supposed to signal when somebody's a bad guy. And it's something I was using kind of as a joke. So here we go. Select music, back to our creepy whispers. And now we're in Creepy Whisperland. We have Cam over here when she's in the village. I might do one more little music change here. Yeah, we can do that. Let me see. I'm just thinking. It's that resolved piano is not going to... let's do some fantasy ambiance. There we go. Ooh, what? Oh no. They're going to sign out. Let's sign back in. Here we go. It was really concerned about that fantasy ambiance. So let's go back and make sure we got our stuff here. That doesn't happen very often, just as a side note. So I don't usually have that happening. I'm heading back to that village. We're selecting that music. We had that fantasy ambiance. We're cutting over. And then we are adding our creepy whispers. I'm going to keep doing that. Sorry. Now it's in. It's never coming away. Except for the next time we stream and I forget all about it. You're lucky I'm a space cadet. Alright, so creepy whispers. That guy's the worst. And then we have some help me's, which are still fine staying in this creepy whisper zone. And Josh can just stay in creepy whispers because he's in a dungeon. And he's not really that much of a villain. And we got... Did we sneak away from Josh in the dungeon cell? Yeah, we went from dungeon to dungeon cell to dungeon again, to rescuing the princess. And now we have the crypt. There's not really that much of a change with the crypt. I'm just going to keep that creepy whispers. And the shine of her golden tresses, and she is also about to die. And that actually wraps us up. So our revisions that we made today, we got some copy editing errors, we got some continuity errors, we fixed some facial expressions, we did a couple of things with some of the names to make sure they appeared right on the screen. So you can see that this session was really what I would think of as like copy editing. It's like those final checks that you would do before you submit a story. So let's go through. I'm going to tell you a trick. We already previewed this a whole bunch of times. So I'm going to click submit. It's going to say, actually, I'm going to click debug first. So debug just checks to make sure that there's no errors. And if there is an error, it tells you how to fix it. So I'm going to click OK. And then we can push submit, and it'll say you need to run preview successfully. And you don't have to run through the entire preview. That's the trick. You just basically need to at least have the preview load. So we'll have the preview load. I'll get a drink of water, and then I'll show you what's next. Alright, so our preview is loading. We got Stariel in the dungeon. And let's see, we can click. Now that the preview is loaded, we don't have to watch through the whole thing like we talked about. We can just click that submit button. And we look here, we did our chapter debug. We're looking over our story details. We can edit any of those if we needed to. Usually you can't edit this stuff once you've been going right here, but you can edit it in another place. So next. Oh, this is the bane of my existence. Oh, I'm happy you all are here with me today. Okay, so the chapter title on this is Peonies. I had this as Peonies originally. I didn't think it was actually like a very good title for this because the previous chapter was basically Peonies. Let's think about what happens in this chapter, okay? So we have a couple of different things. We go into the dungeon. I'm getting another sheet of paper here. Where did my notebook go? Here you go. Evil plans and unicorn drawings. Thank you, Marin Bradley Anderson, for the notebook. All right. So Marin's one of my friends who is also an author. This book, though, has been obviously overtaken by my kid, who periodically comes in and makes his own fantasy worlds also. So, all right, so what happened in this chapter for our description? I tend to not do very long descriptions. We fought the devilest devil of all time, right? And we met some of the prisoners that were in the cells, and we found the princess, right? So we want to have some kind of flower reference in here in our chapter title. I was saying how I didn't really want to do peonies. The other ones we mentioned in this chapter, we did hostas, and we did... I'm just thinking, we also did weeds. Weeds might be a good title for this chapter. Yeah, let's go for it. Weeds. Weeds it is. All right. So in this chapter, we meet the devilest devil of all time. So the description, let me give you an example of some of our other descriptions so you have some reference point. So coming over here in my Creator Studio, if I click on Flower Shoppe for Heroes, if you click View and Edit on this one, I have to remember where that's at in here. Isn't that funny? I think it shows in the other one because I can't edit those chapter details. I lied. You don't get to see that. Ha ha ha. So, weeds. You're deep in the dungeon. Fighting the devilest devil of all time when you meet some unexpected. You're deep in the dungeons fighting the devilest devil of all time. When you meet some unexpected unexpected prisoners, but that sounds weird. You've been fighting the devilest devil of all time. Why don't we do this instead? We could say, deep in the dungeons, you what are we saying? Like you collide with, you meet, you run into. Okay, so deep in the dungeons, you confront the devilest devil of all time. In order to save the princess. There we go. So we got our highlights. We got the princess, we got the devilest devil of all time, and we got the dungeon. So deep in the dungeons, you confront the devilest devil of all time in order to save the princess. It's not exactly what happens. You're not super confronting him in order to save the princess, except for at one point you actually are. So that works out. So it says publish chapter on approval. Chapters will be published to the store after acceptance by the editor. All chapters will be set for sale for 10 coins. So we can click that button. And I acknowledge that I've read and agree to the content creator guidelines. And I look over this one more time. Deep in the dungeons, you confront the devilest devil all time in order to save the princess. All right, let's click that next button. And let's see. So we have our description here, and then this is what that chapter 3 is going to look like. So deep in the dungeons, you confront the devilest devil all time in order to save the princess. I wonder if I should just push submit. All right, you successfully submitted chapter 3, Weeds, A Flower Shop for Heroes. So we got it. So like we said, today was our final run through on chapter 3 of Flower Shop for Heroes. The main things we were doing were cleaning things up, getting things ready to submit. You noticed I went through and added a few more of those flower references for us, started kind of building up to something with the princess, right? We have those other characters that are going to slide in to the story. And I did mention last night that I was thinking about referencing those characters too, but I might just be pulling them into the next chapter. So that was Weeds, and if you want to go back and read Roses, you can go take a look on Flower Shop for Heroes. You can read through Bluebells and into Roses, and so then when Weeds comes out, you'll know exactly what you're looking at. Thanks for helping making it happen today, and I hope you enjoy Flower Shop for Heroes.